Welcome to a chat with Avid. As always, good to see you, Jack. How are you today on this beautiful Tuesday?
Doing pretty good.
Good. Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about something that's on top of mind, I think, for a lot of us as we get into the holiday season and really a few weeks away from the end of 2020. What a crazy year it's been. But looking into 2021, this is that word that we all hear, resolutions. And I think it's on our minds. It might be on yours. But at the root of it is something that we always say when we meet with clients and talk to other people are not necessarily resolutions, but just in general goals. And I think this is a good time to discuss them and what they mean and maybe even some tips on how to be more proactive with them, but also be more consistent and actually sticking to them. So on this topic, I mean, where do we even start? I guess when you think of the word goals, what kind of comes to mind?
Well, goals, a couple of things. One is even we find that when we talk with people, and even I've found in my own experiences, there's a lot of anxiety around setting goals. I think that, I don't know. I really don't know. I think there may be a number of reasons why that is. I suspect some of the reason is through most of your life, it seems, goals are forced upon you as what to accomplish. So whether it's school or whether anybody who's worked in a corporate job they give you goals. What are your goals? There are goals you to death. And they're almost always kind of imposed upon you from the top down. It just tends to bring a lot of anxiety. And they almost always tend to be like we've talked before about, it's a SMART goal, like it's specific, measurable, attainable, those kinds of things that I'm sure it's like a corporate buzzword thing at this point. It tends to be those kinds of things. And those are just really dry. And there's certainly a way to set up a process to determine what your goals are, think about what you're trying to accomplish, and then actually accomplishing those things. There's ways to do that aren't so anxiety inducing. So how about you?
I think as you're kind of running through those things, one, it all resonates, but the anxiety behind the goal, I think, is an interesting point to talk on a little bit. I think there's a lot inside of there, but a couple of things that come to mind is one, and maybe this is personally over the years or working with people for a long time now, there's like I think an internal fear of failure with some of us, then it goes to set with goals. So it's kind of like, if I set a goal, and it doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter if it's financial, relationship, health, spiritual, doesn't matter. Once I set it, I'm committed. And if I don't reach it, if I don't fulfill it, if I don't check it off, then I've failed. And I think that subconsciously exists, and it is a barrier to even start. And it's just easier to say, yeah, I've been thinking about doing this so-and-so. And maybe this even ties into the stages of change we talked about before. So I think one would be just the fear of failure that is subconscious when you even begin to create a goal or a resolution.
And also when you set a goal, the way you typically set goals is you're like in a perpetual state of failure because you have not reached your goal yet. And then once you reach your goal, it's like, okay, now what? Like there's no kind of intermediate goalpost along the way where you could say, all right, I'm making progress. Or if let's say it's a New Year's resolution and you say, next year I want to get in shape or something, whatever you want to say. Well, okay, well, what does that mean? And is it pounds? Is it like, there's so many things, and we almost always narrow it down to some kind of quantitative number, which I want to do X. Like if you're at work, we want you to do this many, whatever, TPS reports in the month or whatever. Certain amounts of things are almost always quantitative. So up until you reach that, of course, you haven't reached it. So you're always like every day you have not achieved a goal because you've put it out too far probably. And you're just always in a perpetual state of failure. Whereas, which I'll talk about in just a second, is if instead the goal is just to have some kind of daily action or a basic action that you're hitting consistently on a much shorter time frame, because all of these things are build on each other. The long term is just a series of short terms. you kind of build up, and you can have success much quicker getting towards what you're trying to accomplish versus saying, I have a goal, and then, I'll wake up every day reaching for my goal, and there's no real kind of basic action to take along the way.
There is definitely a function of goals. Sometimes they're set too vague. They're too big.
Yes. Right.
I want to save more. I want to work out. You know what? I'm gonna read books in 2021. Well,
yes.
If you've never read a book, what does that even mean?
If you don't already have a reading habit or a working out habit or whatever it might be, saving habit, to say I'm going to save more, terrific. I think that's a great idea. But how are you going to go about doing that? And the how is really where you're going to find your goals and your basic actions. Like a good framework is, and this is we say think, plan, live, but and you'll see this everywhere once you kind of understand it, is you're starting from the first step is, what are my objectives? So you'll have like high level objectives, a purpose. What am I trying to accomplish with doing this? So if you're trying to get in shape, let's say, well, for what reason? Because I want to make sure that I'm saving and I'm doing these things that are longer term. I want to make sure that I'm a functional person when I'm older so that I can spend time with my family and I can travel and not have to be in a wheelchair. And, I can do this and enjoy a long, healthy life. And I know that starts today. I want to make sure that I can live a long, active lifestyle. And I know I need to be focused on that on a regular basis in order to accomplish that. So that's a high level objective, because then when it's Tuesday and it's time to go work out or something, go to the gym, it's not some kind of vague goal. This is making sure that I can accomplish this high level objective of being an active, healthy person when I'm 65, 70 years old. I need to make sure that I do this today. It's easier to tie those together and to be a little bit more, I guess, motivated, disciplined to do that. And then the second step, kind of once you figure that out, which is you would get to the kind of plan section. Okay, what am I trying? What are the intermediate goals that I want to hit? So once every week, I want to do 4 times at the gym. Okay, that's what you're trying to do. Those are intermediate goals. So you're just making them shorter. And then your basic actions are just, drive to the gym. My only goal is driving to the gym today, not working out. I just need to get there, because once I get there, my mind frame will go and I'll do the work. So it's just kind of breaking things down like that. So.
And I think it's interesting that you said this, and this goes back to like the old SMART goals. The first component in there is really, which is the opposite of how we are taught, and I think even raised a lot of times, is the emotional, the qualitative reason behind being healthier. Like you had a great example. I want to be healthier. I've got 2 kids. They're going. I'm older as a father, so I want to make sure that I have the ability to play soccer in the backyard with Clay and do all these things. And that's the desire to be healthier today. And that will help motivate. It will refresh and remind me of, all right, why am I getting up Tuesday morning? It's here in Florida. It was 60 degrees, 58 degrees and rainy, and I'm going to go out there and run. I mean, for the record, I didn't get up and go run because that's not my goal, but I'm using that as an example. The emotional attachment to that supersedes and almost has to be addressed before you say, how am I going to accomplish it? Drive to the gym, do 30 push-ups in the morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's more of a tie to, a value. I value the active time with my family and my kids. And I want to make sure that when my kids are 20, let's say, I can still do things with them and not be a burden to them and not feel like they have to take care of me. Like these are all bigger objectives. And the process to doing that starts today. And the intermediate goal is this week, I'm going to do 3 workouts. What happens next week doesn't matter. It's next week. Let's just worry about this week. And then when next week comes, we'll reevaluate. Let's see, is that good? Let's keep doing that. So it's almost like when you set a resolution, let's say, a New Year's resolution, I think where people fall on their faces is they're probably too big. They're vague, typically. And they tend to be the year. We'll forget about the whole year.
Right.
What do you want January to be? You could have 12 resolutions. So January, you have one resolution. My resolution in January is only eat ice cream on Mondays or something. Like just some kind of like, that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to focus on that one little thing. And that's my only goal. And every week I'm going to focus on that. And if I do that for the week, terrific. I did a great job. Next week, and just work through, instead of saying my New Year resolution is to lose 20 pounds or something like that, or I want to save X amount. Like it's way too big. And there's no like daily, weekly action, basic action that you could take.
I think that's a great point. And the other thing too, I'm thinking back to like what are the hesitancies and goals, and some of it is being maybe overconfident or naive to the fact that it's not going to be perfect, right?
Yep.
Anything that you're working towards, because really, if you think about a goal, this goes back to the change webinar that we did too. That means you're doing something different. Either your activity is different, you're doing something health-wise different. So there's an element of I've got to be a different person, and in order to stick with it, you just got to realize it's just not gonna be super easy to do, and there's going to be setbacks. And I think acknowledging that, and then reverting back to the why am I doing this? What's the value behind driving me to eat ice cream only on Mondays?
Yeah,
just go with it, because on Wednesday you're going to have ice cream. I mean, if you like ice cream, dude, you're going to have it. But don't beat yourself up and then be like, well, you know what? I'll wait till 2022 to do a better job at eating ice cream.
Right. Yeah, and if you have a higher level objective, like having valuable time with my kids as an older active person is like a higher level objective, let's say. Well, the fact that you missed this week or something is like, well, there's a lot of weeks to go. Like I'm not going to give it up just because this week I didn't do so great. You're just more tied in to say, but if you say everything is riding on this resolution and doing it all the time, and then you fall off the wagon, it's easy. There's no tie to what you're trying to accomplish. So all you know is, well, I failed my resolution and I give up, the last couple of weeks or something. I think even mentioning the prior video on stages of change is good, because they kind of tie in together. Is, like you said, you're going to fall off. It's just a fact of the matter. You're going to have times when you just fall off, or you lose focus, or, whatever. It doesn't matter. And the key is to get back on the horse and to keep trying. And then going into it, I think another way that can help is some preparation going into the new year, let's say, if that's what you're doing. So instead of like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Okay. What does it look like? And what does my day look like if I have to go to the gym 4 times? Well, I'm going to go in the morning. I'm going to go in the afternoon. That means I'm going to have to do this and do this. And that means I'm going to sacrifice this. And it may make this a little bit more difficult. And that might be an obstacle. So how would I overcome that obstacle? Right. Working through, like, what would it feel like if I was doing that? If you work in an office environment, which I don't, right now, I guess nobody really is working much in an office environment, but if you're around peers and we've talked about this so many times, you start doing something different and doing something to better yourself, the haters are going to come out, and you just have to, what would I do? How would I approach that? If somebody asks me what I'm doing, talk through it with yourself to kind of preempt the roadblocks and how you're going to get over it. And with the knowing that they're going to happen, and I need a way to, how do I get back on the horse when I fall on my face? So preparation,
no doubt. And we've talked about this too, some sort of accountability person.
Yep.
Or partner. I'm going to throw this out there so that you can kind of help me keep track, stay on point, but then also if I start to slide, help me remind me why I'm doing this, right? What are you doing? Well, what you said was this. Okay, yep, you're right. And you know what? It's only January 20th. It doesn't matter. I have all year to get better. Let me focus on what I need to do tomorrow.
There's also like I found that the hard thing about when you are trying to figure out what to do is, one, there's not really a place to go that will tell you what your high level objectives are. So there's no you can't go on the internet. What are my high level objectives? Like that's work that you have to do yourself, which is actually very difficult to do if you've never thought about it before, is to work through like, what am I really trying to accomplish? What are my high level objectives? And being honest with yourself and being confident enough that it doesn't sound corny or something, that you'll stick with it. That's difficult to do. You can definitely go on the internet and find lots of tactics. So those would be kind of the live part of a thing. There's plenty of tactics out there. And what you'll find yourself doing is applying random tactics. So well, I'll try this and I'll try that. And you never really stick to anything because you haven't really described what you're trying to accomplish. So the tactics are just all over the place. If you know what you're trying to accomplish, well, you can pull the tools out to do that. It's much easier to say, okay, let's use these 6 tools of the millions that are available, and let's see how those go for me and how they're working to accomplish my objective. Not, you go on 7 websites and they all have 10 tips on how to get back in shape or save money or whatever, and they're just all over the place. And you try all kinds of things and it doesn't work. And then you're like, well, I just failed again. Instead of doing the harder work further up the chain, where what am I trying to do and what are my intermediate objectives and what are those daily actions, and coming up with a full plan of something that you can follow instead of just looking at tactics.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think creating the time to do that part of it is so crucial. It's really, really difficult in our busy days of life to then take 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and really go through that mental exercise in preparation for this goal that you're going to do or change.
Right.
So somehow carving out the time, and maybe again, that comes with an accountability partner or friend or family member or professional, or depending on what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Just to be committed. Like I know I got to call Jack at 11:30 to talk about how I want to start running again, and I don't want to let him down. So I'll just call him and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Right. And that's another good thing is if you're trying to accomplish something, you have some goal or something you're trying to do, and the reasons are not intrinsically motivated, they're not coming from you, they're almost forced upon you. It's hard to want to take the time to bother. Why would I take an hour out of my day to sit down and really think about what I'm trying to accomplish when, truth be told, I don't care that much. Like this isn't something it's like, in a former life when we were at another company, they always pushed on you to set goals at the end of the year. And then was always were, yes, they make it seem as if these are in your best interest. No, they're not. They're in the company's best interest that you do these things. It's hard to get motivated to do that. It's almost tedious and it wears you out because you're like, these aren't things that I care about. I want to do these other things, but because you can't write it down on a piece of paper and put numbers to it. They just don't want it that way. So the point being, if it's not something that you want to do, it's intrinsically motivated, something that's coming from the inside of you, it's going to be hard to stick with that. And until you identify what those are, you're not going to take the time. You're not going to go through the process of figuring out what your values are and what the purpose is. You're just going to wake up every day and say, what do I have to do today to do this stupid goal that they made me come up with? So,
right. Totally true. But I would say from, years of, I guess, having some sort of consultant role with people and finances, and a lot of times our discussions go outside of just money, the majority of the times, just because you don't do it or you don't take the time doesn't mean there's not, again, that internal anxiety of not doing it.
Yes.
So it's almost like you're better off if it's something that's of value, it bothers you. I think health is an easy thing to pick on. I either eat poorly, I don't exercise, whatever it is, or financially, I probably should save more. I probably should spend less. Really big things that they just eat up a lot of your sleep time, or when your brain's actually not doing something, you're thinking about it. Force yourself to sit down and just talk about it. That's the first step, really, even to getting there, is just figuring out, is this really important enough to take action on, or am I just beating myself up and I really don't even care because I hear everybody else doing X?
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. It's easy to see what other people are doing and think that that's something that you, of course, always should be doing, when if you actually sit down and talk about it, realize I don't really care. Like, for example, sometimes you'll get with some, like, this is always so funny. Sometimes you'll be doing something and in the back of your mind thinking, God, this is just the dumbest thing I've been doing. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't care. This is so dumb. And you see other people doing what you think is something similar. And then somehow, some way, you end up in a conversation with somebody who's doing the same thing. And it seems like both of you want to say the same thing, that this is the dumbest thing you've ever done. And then finally one of you says, God, you know what? I just can't stand doing that. And the other person says, thank God you said that, because I feel the same way. This is dumb. Why am I doing this? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And it's almost like this bonding experience over how ridiculous that I'm doing this. It's good to talk to somebody else that you can have an open conversation with and talk through and realize I really don't care about doing whatever it might be. It's not fun. Like,
Right.
Use running as an example. You think, wow, healthy people run. And then you get out there and run. You think, God almighty, sucks. I hate doing this, but people run. So I'll keep running. When it's like, no, there's other things you could do. Like, there's no, you just have to find what works for you instead of forcing yourself to do something that other people are doing, because you, in your imagination, at least from the outside, it seems as though that's what's equaling their success.
That's a great point. Well, as we get into 2021, are there any, this is going to contradict exactly what you just said, goals or aspirations that you think are just in general good things to think about?
Well, I would say chances are, if you're a New Year's resolution type person, which I think is fine. I think if you find somebody that says, New Year's resolutions, if you tell them I'm doing some kind of New Year's resolution and they say, oh, it's dumb, blah, blah, that's the person you need to not be around when you try to do something better, because they're going to tell you how stupid it is. So if you are a New Year's resolution type person, I would say, I don't know that it matters necessarily what you're trying to accomplish. I think it's valuable to set your mind to accomplish something and then go through the process and accomplish it, because then you basically develop the skill of accomplishing things. So, for example, if you said, I don't want to drink any alcohol in January, let's say, I'm going to be alcohol free in January. Mm-hmm. They're great. I think that's good. So let's take the next couple of weeks. I'm not sure when I'll have this video out. Let's say it's a week or two ahead before the end of the year. Take a couple weeks. Think about what that's going to be like. Are there anybody's birthdays? Are there events coming up? Or whatever it might be? How are you going to navigate those when they come, and start thinking about them now? Let's think about all these things that I'm going to do. Normally on Fridays, the boys go out for happy hour. Okay, how are you getting out of that? Those kinds of things. Let's think about what the hiccups are going to be, and let's come up with the process. Once you can do that, you can say, what am I even doing this for? Because I feel like I've gotten in a bad habit of, maybe I drink too frequently, or it's the holidays and it's just been too much. I just need a break from just gluttony, let's say. Whatever it is, I have a higher level objective that I'm trying to accomplish. What are my intermediate goals? So those would be, I want to go through the whole weekend, no drinks or something. You have some kind of weekly goal, let's say, something that's small, shorter term than the ultimate, what you're trying to accomplish. And then the daily action, or the basic action, should be something like a checklist, like just writing down every day, no drink. Like, I didn't this week, I didn't. And so you can keep track and you get a little bit of a chain going. And, if you're 12 days into it, the motivation to keep that going is pretty good. So then you get 13, 14, by the time you're on 26, you're like, no way I'm blowing this thing up in the next 4 days. I've made it this far, let's say. So, and that's just that's 1 month. I think that would be great. I think that'd be a great thing to do to practice the skill of setting some kind of objective and then accomplishing it through just a basic think, plan, live, or a high level objective, intermediate goal, basic action type process. And if you want to go back to the stages of change, you can look through that, talk a little bit about hurdles and things, just to get in the mode of, I can do this. I can set goals and accomplish things and build a little bit of confidence, instead of saying, I have a 1 year goal and then falling on your face in 2 weeks and saying, well, it must be me. Like, so I would highly recommend doing it. There's nothing that will give you more confidence than setting a New Year's resolution, going the whole month and accomplishing it. Because then you feel like, oh, this is cool. I can do this in February too. And you'll get a lot more confidence for sure.
If anything, that's exactly what it'll give you. You might February start drinking again every day.
Yeah, right.
You're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
But at least you'll be able to say, okay, I can do this. And then when I'm like, if it's a big change, and maybe, we're picking up drinking for whatever reason, but if it's anything of big importance, just knowing that you have the ability to do better or to kick it if it's a bad habit or whatever it is, that's the first step. Then when you are ready to say, okay, I'm going to do a life-changing event. I never used to run, but I'm going to be a runner because it's going to do this. And then you wake up and every day I'm a runner and that's where I'm going. And I've already know it. I've done 3-4 weeks in a row doing it. This is not who I am. So yeah. I think it's a great point. I think we should end it with that, actually. Hopefully this has been valuable to you as we get into the New Year's. If you have resolutions, you want to bounce one by us or use us as a sounding board, we're here for it. We wish you all the best. We would say start big, like Jack said, boil it down to specific things, understand the value for it, and don't be too hard on yourself because none of us are perfect.
Great. I absolutely agree. Good parting thoughts for sure.
All right, y'all. Well, thanks for tuning in again to another weekly chat with Avid. We'll see you next week.
All right, see ya.